The Ethiopian Renaissance Dam has been a major media focus recently, especially after they did the last filling for me, or the penultimate, which reached about 62,000, 1 or 2 of the cubic meter of water, which means preparation for reaching 74,000 mem3, which is the total capacity of the dam. The dam, of course, is built on the Blue Nile, one of the major rivers.
Of the Nile River. This is, of course, a very big crisis, a very, very huge problem.
The Renaissance Dam is an old project, meaning they thought about it in Ethiopia in the year 53, and studies for dam projects actually began in the year 57,957 with America. Due to many political and economic circumstances, this issue was disrupted, and of course there was strong pressure from Egypt not to build this dam, and there was even explicit threats from the government, I think around 2009, by striking the dam with aircraft, and the truth was that it was completely stopped. There were no actual construction steps in any kind of way, but after the events of the January Revolution in Egypt in 2011, glory be to God, in light of the turmoil that existed in Egypt at that time and the political vacuum.
The one that happened immediately after the revolution?
Within just 2 months of the January Revolution, did the Ethiopians build the dam or lay the foundation stone and work seriously to build the dam? This speech was on March 30th, 2011, meaning 2 months and 5 days after the January 25th Revolution, and the project began continuously. And they've reached the end of the dam completely, and its total energy is now showing clearly.
The truth is that the dam is catastrophic for the region, catastrophic for Egypt, and catastrophic for Sudan.
Oh, of course they affected Egypt more because Egypt is almost completely dependent on the Nile River for water supply. The Nile River supplies Egypt with 97 to 98% of Egypt's needs, and therefore the dam means for us a very dangerous issue.
The dam is a very huge disaster. In this episode, I will enumerate some of these disasters, or the titles of these disasters. In order to know the size of the issue, and to know how much we care about the issue of water, the dam is supposed to first affect the share of water heading to Egypt. Egypt is required by previous international agreements to deliver it. It is supposed to deliver 55, 1,000 3 of water annually, and Sudan is supposed to deliver it to 18, 1,000 3 of international agreements. These agreements are final and conclusive. The Court of States Doctrine International Justice. In the year 89, it issued a ruling that water agreements have the same sanctity, importance, and danger of borders as there are border agreements. It is not useful for them to be broken. If they are broken, a major global violation will still occur, as well as water agreements. Therefore, these historical agreements cannot be acted upon except by sitting down, all parties, and resolve the issue collectively, and acceptance by all parties of the proposed solution, or
it is discussed in the old agreements. The old agreement says that Egypt has this amount of water annually. In fact, this amount of water is small for Egypt, 55,000 cubic meters of water. If we take it all together, we will have a deficit of 55% because Egypt needs 120,000 mem3 of water annually.
On the idea that this number increases annually to increase the population, increasing the population and sources of 101, we need more and more, but we are worried during this period. We already have a deficit of 55% if we take all the amount of water they own. Egypt in this way suffers from water poverty. Egypt's serum already, with the presence of 55,000 M3, suffers from water poverty. Water poverty, this is a number they set. The scientists specializing in water resources. They said that the country, the individual in it, in order to get out of water poverty, is required to be available to one individual in the country.
1,000 m3 of water per year.
and multiply the number, of course, by the population, but this is the average number. The need means that if the number falls below 500 per 1,000 years per individual, this will remain the limit of water scarcity, and this is very dangerous. The limit of water scarcity may bring you into it. I mean, you will die as a result of the most severe water outage or lack of water. What is Egypt's share? What does the individual have? 530.
533 per year, does that mean?
We are indeed very close, not to water poverty, but to the water scarcity that is beyond it. And Egypt is one of the arid countries in the world. This means that Egypt is one of the 25 countries in the world with the lowest water content. Imagine, the Nile River exists, meaning with all this, the water in the Nile River, but Egypt is one of the countries threatened by water shortages, and we have problems that may be in the future regarding the issue of water. So we must take this issue very carefully, of course, the issue of water and H. Mayadit, which is the first point in the story of the dam disaster. We do not need water just to drink this water. It means the backbone of life and an existential issue, because water is very important in agriculture, water is very important in industry, water is very important in livestock, and very important in producing electricity. So you have very, very huge projects based on the issue of water. It is not possible for a country to live without its real needs for water being available. This remains the first disaster. The Renaissance Dam affects the water share. All this talk before the Renaissance Dam, after the Renaissance Dam. All this talk is exposed to greater danger. Of course, the situation requires pauses for us. The second issue that the Renaissance Dam is doing the impact on the agricultural area, and the dam has already reached in the past period. To threaten 15% of the agricultural area in Egypt, or already done so, means the studies say that it is indeed the agricultural raka, I said. It is possible that it reaches up to 15% of the agricultural raka in Egypt. The third thing that it does is that it reduces the fertility of the land, meaning that the agricultural land will decrease in size, and it will also decrease in fertility, because it reduces the amount of rose silt that I can use from the clay lands that exist in Ethiopia and elsewhere, and thus the percentage of particular it can be reduced by 30%, which is also a very large number. The land remains present but does not produce with the same energy.
The fourth thing that the dam does is affect the quality of crops.
I am forced as a result that there is little water. If I change my planting, instead of planting rice, I plant pearl, and this is the reality that exists. As a result of the lack of water after the issue of the Renaissance Dam, the state has not begun to reduce the amount of water that exists. The state has tended to change rice cultivation in some the governorates and completely banned it in some governorates. To growing corn, which is considered an alternative to L for rice. The state has already reduced the area of rice farmland from more than 2,000 acres to just 725,000 acres per year. Why is this necessary? Because rice needs a lot of water and pearl needs water. That's why we were forced to turn to this issue, as well as, for example, on the issue of the sugar department, and we had a crisis in sugar because of this issue, or this is one of the reasons, especially for sugar. It consumes a lot of water, so we turned to planting bangers. Cane, corn, sugar, beet sugar, PBB cost 100 less. It is possible that 1 acre of sugar and its water is enough to grow 2 or more buckets of beets. But why do beets have problems? Beets need 1/4 and 1/4 to produce the same amount of sugar as 1 acre of sugar cane produces. Beets are not found in Egypt. For beets we import their seeds. So we also have a problem with importing, and their consumption is increasing. And the pineapple comes out to you. Then sugar, and it costs me more attention and more intense and difficult care than sugar cane. It remains that I am forced to make sugar cane, or I make this beet sugar instead of sugar cane, and this naturally costs the state a higher cost, and otherwise, even in bananas and other things, they are also forced to change the type of crops because of the need, some crops, for a lot of water. The fifth need that the dam does, the Renaissance Dam. The impact on the labor market is expected, as the Minister of Irrigation in Egypt says. if more than 1,000 people withdraw from the labor market, exactly 1,000, 100,000 as a result of the Renaissance Dam, it is possible because all these people are working. In Egypt, more than 50% of the people are working in sectors related to agriculture, whether in agriculture itself or in agricultural production, or not in transportation or matters related to agriculture and other industries based on agriculture. I have 50% of the people in this way, so more than 1,000 people will leave the market. From the labor market, the sixth need is also very dangerous, which is having to start alternative projects, because when I have water, I will be forced to work alternative projects in order to get water, and alternative projects have a very terrible cost, like the projects that are part B. She is trying to produce water. For example, in Egypt, we have the Bahr al-Bakr station located in the eastern delta south of Port Said. This station is considered one of the largest, if not the largest, sewage treatment station in the world. Agricultural, industrial drainage and sanitation so that we can then use it in agriculture. I have to build this station because the water is low and I want to reclaim lands in Sinai and elsewhere, so I need this station. This station will cost 50,000 pounds, which means printing a terrible number. And I have another parallel station in West Alexandria. The cost is the same, approximately 50,000 pounds for the same purpose. We are forced to do this, to rehabilitate the nature of the Western Sahara. We have to give these numbers to me because the percentage is small, so I said that too. The second projects are very, very huge, as well as the groundwater projects, so that I can get 100. From underground, the cost is also very rigid. One artesian beer can cost from 1,000 to 5,000 pounds. So this is also a number, so why? I'm trying to compensate for the water caravan. What is this worth? A coin, Bisawi money. Bisawi, a very huge expenditure borne by a treasury. Scholars estimate that every 1,000 M3 that Ethiopia prevents from reaching Egypt costs Egypt 10,000 pounds. Imagine these are the statistics of the Egyptian Ministry of Irrigation. Of course, this means that the issue really needs pauses. This is all in the sixth point. The seventh point is safety risks and the possibility of collapse. Of course, this is a time bomb. If I had this dam, would there be any risks? Unfortunately, Egypt is not MH. There is no agreement with Ethiopia in the construction process because the construction was carried out unilaterally by Ethiopia, as we described, so we have no knowledge of it. The mechanisms with which the dam was built, and therefore we have many question marks. More than one of the safety points of this dam, especially since this dam is built on a fault. I mean, it is the Horn of Africa region in which there is a terrestrial fault in the Earth's crust, and therefore the region, and originally this region, is prone to earthquakes and volcanoes. With a higher percentage of earthquake activity, a day of volcanic activity, and therefore the presence of such a dam in this area will expose the dam. If a major earthquake occurs, you will see 6 dates and nothing more. And nothing like that. It can collapse if it collapses. It destroys Sudan, especially Blue Nile state located on, eastern Sudan near the western border of Ethiopia, very, very close to the dam, only 40 kilometers from the dam, What about Sudan? Because the dam is Ethiopian, when the dam built its daughters in the far northwest of it. If an explosion occurs in it, it will not have a total impact on Ethiopia, but its entire impact will affect Sudan and then Egypt, of course, as well. A very dangerous topic, and some scientists say that there are leaks in the saddle dam. This saddle dam is one of the parts that make up the Renaissance Dam. There are indeed leaks in this dam, and of course this is something that also carries great dangerous meanings. The 8th, 9th, and 10th matter is the possibility of selling water, and of course this represents a means of pressure, and the 9th is the possibility of controlling the arrival of water from the beginning to Egypt, closing the dam. This is possible. They have the key to the dam, as it is also a pressure card that is not acceptable if it is with Ethiopia, and the 10th possibility, and this is also possible. Ethiopia's relations with the Jews have deep-rooted relations and has a history of peace, and we can continue to give you an episode on this issue. The truth is that the issue needs pauses. It needs solidity in the Egyptian position. It needs a military presence in the region, and thank God in Egyptian agreements now with Somalia. Djibouti with Eritrea is even imposed, of course, with Sudan. All this because the imposed situation matters to the region. The entire Horn of Africa and the safety of Egypt means the safety of this region from unrest and unrest. We also warn of other Ethiopian pressures. If possible, Ethiopia will put pressure on Egypt from the Red Sea side. Navigation in the Suez Canal puts pressure on Egypt in terms of playing in Sudanese politics. And Sudan has a very important strategic depth for Egypt, so we should be careful of Ethiopian pressure on Egypt, and Egypt must have strong Arab lobbies. So, my Sudan, or with Somali, or with Arab countries that can make investments in Ethiopia as a kind of pressure on Ethiopia, and also global lobbies with countries that have projects in what? Ethiopia. And work remains to activate global bodies, such as the United Nations, such as the International Court of Justice, so that binding international agreements are implemented and the whole world stands with Egypt. Egypt in this field has also done a good job in cooperation with Germany.
I lobbied at the United Nations, mobilized by 151 countries around the world, to create a position called the UN Water Envoy. In the first one she holds this position is the Foreign Minister of Indonesia, and this position's role remains to coordinate such matters, put pressure on countries that violate water treaties, and provide me with other means as an alternative to accustom the country to 100% water poverty.
Of course, we must be prepared for alternative methods, including desalination plants, artesian wells, and others, so that we do not face huge pressure from this aspect, especially as we said that even in the absence of the dam, we already have a state of acute water shortage. We ask God Almighty to make it easier for us to solve this issue in the best solution, and this is one of the biggest challenges facing the nation. We ask God for safety. Sudan did not hide.
And other Muslim countries, may God's peace and blessings be upon you.